All right, folks. Today, since we've gotten through all the basic notes on the different kinds of tissues, the problem is that you already figured out is you're going to have to be able to identify these tissues by sight. So what we're going to do for a few minutes here is we're going to go through some slides on the screen up here and see if we can identify, based on certain things, what type of tissue it is. Now we're going to go through them one at a time, and I'm going to point out specific things you can look for that will help you identify what kind of tissue you got. Because remember, Monday we are going to have our lab on the different kinds of tissues, right? So we need to, once we get in there and do that on Monday, we need to be able to identify those tissues very quickly, very easily, and see what we're looking for. And I hope this will help you figure that out and see that a little bit better for Monday, okay? All right, so we're going to look at the different kinds of tissue, and this is, again, is just practice to get us to see what is in each one of them, okay? So the first one here. Now, if you look at this one ought to be one of the easiest ones to identify because you have these big cells here that are kind of blobby. They look like somebody smeared a bunch of dead spiders or dead bugs on everything, okay? And then you have these little bitty dark dots all around it. Okay? This should tell you instantly that this is nervous tissue, right? This is nervous tissue because there's the neurons with all their little stringy things, stringy extensions coming off. There's the nucleus in the center. And all these little black purple dots are the neuroglia, the helper cells that help them do their job in the nervous tissue. Okay? So that one should be fairly straightforward because you'll kind of look like this pretty much every time. Okay? Now, this next one. So if we look at this one here, we can start to break it down real quick. I am specifically looking at this right, whoops, wrong button. I'm specifically looking at this right here, this whole area. I don't care about all this other stuff down here. I'm looking right here. Now, if you'll notice, you see the cells. They're elongated, aren't they? And since they're elongated, that tells you that they're columnar epithelium because they're column shaped, okay? But if you also notice, look how you see a row right here of nuclei, but then now look right here. There's another row of nuclei on the bottom. So you got a row up here and then another row. So we have two rows of nuclei. That should tell you there should be two rows of cells. So this is columnar epithelium that is stratified. It's two layers of columnar epithelium. Hence the name stratified means layered. Columnar means the elongated shaped cells. Okay? So that's how you can see that one. All right? Let's look at the next one. The next one ought to be just about as easy as the first one we saw. You see how you got this central circular pattern going on here? This target shaped pattern here and this target shaped pattern right here. And all these little black spots are where the little cells are located. This is bone tissue. Okay? That's where the osteocytes, the bone cells, are located in each one of these little areas. And remember, bone is real easy as well because it looks like somebody took a cross section of a tree trunk. Okay? So that's bone. So bone will always basically look like this version here. Okay? Now this one's a little harder. What is this? Well, these are nuclei, aren't they? Every once in a while. These are cells, but look how long and thin the cells are. I mean, they're super, super long. And they're layered one right after the other, just like this. This one is a little more difficult. It's not epithelium. It's a type of muscle tissue. Okay? But if you'll notice, muscle tissue was of three types. Two of them had little striations and stripes. You don't see any striations here at all, do you? They're very long and thin and even pointed at the edges, and we have one nucleus at each one of them. This is smooth muscle tissue, okay? And you can see that because it has one cell or one nucleus per cell. They're elongated, very long looking, but they don't have any nuclei, okay? I mean, not nuclei, striations, I'm sorry. Okay? So that's number 4. Or the third one, excuse me. Next one. This right here looks kind of odd, doesn't it? This is adipose tissue. okay? Do you see how the nuclei of the cells are in little sections and it's basically empty right in here? So it looks like kind of like a net, right? This is actually filled, remember, with fat droplets, okay? But you can see every once in a while, there's a nucleus, there's a nucleus, there's a nucleus, there's a nucleus, and inside the rest of it is empty. Although it isn't empty, it just looks empty, okay? So this is adipose tissue, fat tissue, okay? This right here, I don't care about this at the bottom, that's just junk. What I'm looking at is right up here, right in this area right here. Now you see these little hairs, there's the cilia, so that should tell you something about it, because there's only a couple types that have cilia. There's actually only two that we really talked about that had cilia. Okay? You'll notice that they're elongated cells, aren't they? So it's some sort of columnar epithelium. And remember, there were three types of columnar epithelium. And if you look at it, it kind of looks like there's two of them. See some down here and some up here, but it doesn't look like completely two separate layers, does it? It's kind of zigzaggy, right? Kind of see this? So when you see this little weird zigzag pattern, and it's kind of up, instead of being like one complete row across, this is pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium. It kind of looks like two layers, but in reality, it's only one layer of columnar epithelium, okay? Because it does kind of look odd right down here at the bottom. Kind of janked up, doesn't it? Okay. Now, this one, we're primarily looking at these right here. These circular things. And if you look real close, I'll blow it up just a hair, the cells are kind of square-shaped, aren't they? So they're cuboidal shaped, so it's cuboidal epithelium. But if you look at each individual ring, there's only one layer of cube-shaped cells. So this is simple cuboidal epithelium. One row on each set of square-shaped cells, cube-shaped cells, okay? That one's pretty straightforward too. Now this one, if you look at this one, you can pretty much tell. It has striations, so it's a muscle tissue, isn't it? Because only muscle tissues have striations. All right. It has multiple, you can see these dark areas, these are nuclei. Well, there are a bunch of nuclei. There's two on this one alone, and probably another one down there. This one's got 3 or 4 right here. This is skeletal muscle. Remember, skeletal muscle is striated, it's long, it's got striations, and it's got multiple nuclei per cell. Because this is a cell, this is a cell, this is a cell, this is a cell, and so forth, right? So this is skeletal muscle, and those are the things you can look for. The striations and the multiple nuclei per cell. Okay? Now, this right here is also pretty easy because it's just a bunch of little round, pinkish red circles. Well, occasionally you'll find one of these big blue things right here. This is blood. Okay? Blood is easy because it's little blood cells floating around. Okay? Blood is going to basically look like a bunch of little pink round circles. Quite honestly. Okay? Now this one right here, I don't care about all this down here at the bottom. I'm looking right here. Right here in this area. Okay? If you look at the cells, see how they're elongated? Alright, let's do this. See how they're elongated? There's one cell. Here's another cell. Here's another cell. And so forth. So it's one layer of elongated cells because there's only one set of nuclei. So this is definitely simple columnar epithelium. Okay? Simple columnar epithelium. One layer of elongated cells. Okay? All right, right here, this kind of looks like Swiss cheese, doesn't it? Well, you can see here is a cell, here's another cell, here's a cell, here's a cell, here's a cell, here's a cell. They're all inside this solid material, okay? And they're inside these empty spaces that they're living. This is cartilage, okay? If you see this and it looks like Swiss cheese, think of cartilage, okay? Because that's basically the easiest way for me to remember and for you guys to remember. If it looks like some purplish blue Swiss cheese, this is going to be cartilage. Okay? All right. This one right here. Aha. Well, if you look closely, you see there are a bunch of little striations. Now you see a nucleus every once in a while, but I want you to pay particular attention to here. See this right here? See this right here? And here? And here? Everywhere you see those big thick lines, like right here, that's called an intercalated disc. This is muscle because we do have the little striations, right? And this is muscle tissue. But since I have those intercalated discs and only one nucleus, there's fewer nuclei than there was in the skeletal muscle, wasn't there? This is called cardiac. This is heart muscle. Okay? Pretty straightforward. If you're thinking it through, it should be easy to identify. Okay? Now, this one right here is going to be kind of hard because it kind of looks like adipose tissue, doesn't it? But this is not adipose tissue. Okay? If you look real close and see, that's why I got the arrows here. This is one cell, 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 and so forth. These are one cells each. Okay? So it's one layer thick. So it's simple. If you look real close, the cells are kind of getting squishy looking. Okay? Now there's a lot of empty space in between it. This is actually found in your lungs. Okay? This is simple squamous epithelium. It's only one layer thick. Okay? So it's only one layer thick, and they're squashed looking cells. They're kind of flat looking. So this is simple squamous because squamous means flattened cells, or scaly looking cells. Okay? That's a little bit harder because that one will get confused with adipose. But the more we look at them, the easier it will be to identify. Okay? All right, this is a jumbled mess, isn't it? And remember what I said? The one that looks like a jumbled mess, remember I said it kind of looked like looking through a briar patch? It's kind of stuff just everywhere. This is easy because it's a type of connective tissue called loose connective tissue. Everything, you know, the elastic fibers, the collagen fibers, and then there's the fibroblasts right in there. And it's just all a big jumbled mess. This is loose connective tissue. Okay? All right? So, again, that was just an example of some of them. Now, we'll go and look some more when we get up here later, but I hope this kind of helps you go through that. And I'm going to send you some other stuff a little bit later today to look at. But again, just be aware of what you need to start looking at. If you want to go on YouTube, or not YouTube, well, you can go on YouTube as well, but go on a search engine and go look for each individual images of each different type. Type in each one of them, get a good look at each individual one of them, make sure they're what they say they are, and then go through them one at a time and look at them, and you'll start to see the patterns. There's always a pattern that'll help you figure out which one of those 4 types of tissue that you're looking at, okay? All right, we'll talk to you later.